Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today you might have noticed, those of you who have watched the other 8 episodes, that I've made the camera straight on with my face. I know a few of you have commented on it, and it was time that I finally did it. How did I achieve such technical wizardry? I got a stand and then stuck a bottle of ale. It's special Hobgoblin King Goblin brew by Witchwood. It's sat behind my iPad, so the iPad cannot fall back any further than it currently is, which means I can sit here staring straight at it, at everything, and yeah, hopefully this improves the quality somewhat. I guess next I need to think about behind me another camera to replace the iPad, and just generally adding some sort of thumbnails and all sorts to this. Anyway, so today I thought I would talk about, people enjoyed the one yesterday about all the random stupid things that have happened to me, or well, the top 5 at least. And it made me think about just other sort of bits and pieces that I, can talk about, or just stories I have from over the years and things like that. I did a post a little while back about work and just how many jobs I've had over the years. I've had a lot of different career paths laid out in front of me. And I actually counted 12 not including students, which is pretty ridiculous really for a man who's only 32 years old. If you were to put that to one a year, then, and I'd started working when I was 20, let's say I started working at 20, that would literally be one a year. The fact is I started a little bit younger. I class paper round as a job on there. I know technically that's not the case, but it just makes the number look bigger, to be frank. I also wanted to start with that because I think there's a bit of a pattern through jobs that I have. I kind of have a job that goes a bit wrong or a bit rubbish, and then a job that's all right, and then a job that goes a bit rubbish, and a job that's all right. Right now, and especially if my boss is watching, because I want to make this 100% clear, this job is an all right one, and I love this job. I'm happy with this job. Don't assume that I'm not, because I do, I'm enjoying it. It's good. It's good stuff. I've stuck around this long, believe in me. Anyway, paper round, yeah, wasn't cut out for that. I took that on. My job was to basically take leaflets, stuff them in a paper, go door to door, sticking them through. At first, for maybe 6 months, I basically did this properly every time. Went from door to door. It was hundreds of doors, took me hours. I probably did it over 2 nights just to split the job up a bit. Crippled my shoulder, bent my spine. I genuinely have an S-shaped spine, not maybe full on S like that, but it's all bent up because of the paper round and carrying bits and bobs like a very heavy school bag. It all went a bit wrong in that job when I basically realised that nobody really cared if the paper ever got to them. It wasn't a very good paper and people didn't really read it. I think I missed a week and people didn't notice. So then I started to just basically just stuff them in bins through. Like, I picked a couple of houses on my route, were basically desolate looking. One house had bin bags in the window. Everything was basically covered up and boarded up. And I just assumed nobody lived there. So what I used to just do was I'd go there with my bag and I'd just feed papers through the letterbox, and then I'd go and do a couple of houses nearby. And it's pretty bad when I think back, but I'd basically started just wandering across their front gardens rather than walking house to house. I'd basically cut every corner. I just didn't see the point in doing it. It was far too much work for what was then something like £10 to £15 a week in wages. One day though, I was feeding papers into the house with the bin bags all over the window and the boarded up windows and doors, when the door flew open and this lady came out, absolutely furious with me. What the hell are you doing? Why do you keep doing this? Who do you think you are? And I was just shocked. I said, I didn't think anyone lived there. I just wanted to get rid of the papers. Turns out she did live there, and she had about 1 billion pets, which I kind of thought, well, then use the papers to mop up their wee or whatever, but she didn't like it. So, she rumbled me a bit, and then basically from that point onwards, I had the conversation with her where she said, I'm going to tell your boss. Nothing ever came of it. I'm guessing that it wasn't the first time they'd been told that a paper boy had not delivered his rounds. So I then just had to keep just finding other ways to lose them, which pretty much meant putting them all in the dog kennel at my mum and dad's house. The rabbit hutch, my rabbit hutch would have about this much thick of paper in it, so that the rabbit and the guinea pig could wee on them, and I could just kind of take out the chunk, stick it in the bin, and put a new chunk in. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in my mum and dad's loft or house somewhere there wasn't just a still completely packed, wrapped pack of newspapers, because towards the end of that I just went from that job. I took on shop jobs once I was old enough to work in Boots, the chemist. I don't have much to say in the way of stories on that, except I am the only person in the history of Boots to fail their customer service exam that they make all staff do when they sign up. Not because I'm an idiot, well, because I'm an idiot, but not because I'm stupid or thick. I can't think of the right way to say it. Basically, you have to answer lots of questions like, our customer comes to the till, they want to spend, I don't know, £10, what change should you give them? That's all fine. One of the questions was, what do you do if they try to pay in some kind of, I think it's like traveller's checks or something like that. And we have a system for checks, we have a system for foreign money, we obviously didn't take it, that kind of thing. And I just kind of took a wild guess at what I thought it was. And I must have spent all of the exam time writing out this answer, because it was the most elaborate, far-fetched thing. And when I handed it in, the woman said to me, I've never, in all my years, had to fail someone on this. But she said, if you'd have just put, I don't know, I would have just been fine. It didn't matter. But you put such a long-winded load of nonsense that you have to redo the exam, because I can't have you going out on the shop floor just winging it like that. That's nonsense. You can't do that. I was absolutely ashamed to be the person who failed it. But I worked there for long enough. I managed to work in the warehouse for a bit. I worked on the food court nearby, where I was basically in quite a cushy role. I was looking at, I had to empty trays and clean them up, and I would just basically stand in front of a TV that had football on all weekend. So I got to just watch Sky Sports, watch football. I always cleaned the taps, which wasn't a euphemism. I just basically scrubbed the metal taps. So you could always tell if I was on a shift, because it'd just be this gleaming silver tap that was completely clean and pristine and perfect. But like, nothing much would have been done. We were in pairs, so the people would bring me trays and I'd clean them, but nothing much else was being done, because I was basically just watching football, cleaning and giving directions. Towards the end of my time at college, my dad said to me, you're leaving college soon, you need to find a proper job, you need to start, a career. No one's going to pay you to sit around all day playing games and doing nothing, so sort your life out, go find something. Inspirational stuff. He went on holiday for a couple of weeks, and when he came back, I'd applied for a job at the local council. My job was basically to site manage, which meant that I was the caretaker. I was the person who rang for electricians and this, that and the other to come into the building. I had to manage the stock of the building, which wasn't much. And basically, I got a free flat to live in, and I was my own manager pretty much. I had a supervisor, but he'd just turn up every now and again, and I basically spent all of my time in that job literally playing games and watching TV and sitting around and having fun with people. Again, like the earlier jobs, I had a pattern where towards the end I realised that none of the other people there did any work. The place was just a mess. I'd go to work and do all this stuff or sit around some days or whatever, but nothing would change. They literally did nothing. They just lived their lives in the building. Being a bit scared, what I decided to do was I logged the patterns of my boss being in and out of the building every week, and then I made sure that I was always sat in my office, which was downstairs by the entrance, and that the kettle was always boiling or had just been boiled, so that if ever he came in the building, I could literally just say, I've just put the kettle on, or the kettle's just boiled, would you like a cup of tea? Before he said anything, he'd say yes, we'd just chat, he'd go on his merry way, and then I'd clock off for the day. The side effect of this plan was twofold. I read a lot of books, which was great. But I also drank about 15, 20 cups of tea a day, which was not great. And I don't know why I didn't just not drink the tea. But every time I boiled the kettle, I made tea. Just because I thought the story wouldn't work if I had no tea in my hand. I had to have a fresh cup of tea at all times. So I would. They must have thought I was the most tea addicted person in the universe, because I got through a truckload a day. Things were all right in that job for most of the time until one day the boss rang me saying, "Where are you?" And I'd often say, "Oh, I'm on the 11th floor. I'll come down in a minute." And he basically responded, "No, you're not." And I was like, "Well, I am. Maybe I'm on the 10th floor." And he was like, "No, I'm outside your front door. I can hear you. You're inside." So I basically sat in there for a good 5 minutes thinking, well, I can't climb out the window. I can't like abseil away. Or, I can't just tell him he's wrong, wait till he goes away and then come in and catch him out. So in the end, I just opened the front door and said, "Look, you caught me out. I was having a number two." He was a bit more embarrassed then. He was kind of like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were skiving." And I was like, "No, am I not allowed to, I'm not allowed to use the toilet in my spare time, you monster." Put it on the back foot, and I think I got away with it. That job went on. I did that job for 18 months of pretty much doing nothing. The hardest thing of the day might be doing a quick run through, reporting graffiti. I had people complaining that there were people pooing in the hallways, and then I'd discover a couple of days later that it was their children or their family that were pooing in the hallways. We did have one very shocking moment where we got handed some pictures one day around the office in my office, and they're talking about this dirty man. Look at him weeing in the lifts. What a monster! And then they handed me this piece of paper. Do you know him? And I looked down, and there's one of my relatives just having a wee in the lift. And I just stared in disbelief before just going, "I've never seen him before in my life." Handing it back to him. Back to my boss, but generally that job is an up and a down. It was a genuine highlight for just doing what I wanted. It's definitely chilled me out. I'm not the sort of person who wants to go out to nightclubs and stuff now. I'm not the sort of person who wants to just go nuts with parties and whatever. I've calmed down a lot having done that 18 months of that job. By the end of that, I actually decided I wanted to do something important and became a trainee nurse because my sister was doing it and it seemed like a great job and I was interested. I didn't last on that, not because it was grueling and difficult. They just don't get paid enough. So on a serious note, pay nurses more, because I remember getting into uni one day, and to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I didn't turn up all the time. I skipped the boring lectures, I skipped the pointless stuff. But on the events that I did turn up, I kept finding they were cancelling stuff, so I just stopped turning up and told them I quit. 6 months later, they sent me a letter saying, "Where are you? You've not turned up for placement for 6 months. Where the hell have you been?" And by that point, I was working in insurance, selling and doing customer services and stuff like that. I did that for quite a while, and that was quite a good job. That was on the up again. I had no problems with that. I was like the top 1% of salespeople at the company. I got moved into sales because I was doing so well in customer services at selling like breakdown and stuff like that. People would ring up with a problem. I wouldn't let them cancel. I'd talk them around. I'd sell them some stuff and I'd let them go. I think they got to the point where they were like, "This isn't challenging enough. Let's move you to sales." Again, top 1%, did really good. Did a lot of other stuff there, like complaints, which was amazing. The stupid things people would complain about. It was just so much fun. If it paid properly, dealing with complaints day in, day out would be amazing. I'd love to do that because you can just imagine the kind of thick things people complain about. It's taught me a lot about complaining as well, though, because the ones who were successful had something that they were banged to rights on, and it taught me a lot about what was right and what was wrong. I think I took some of those lessons to my other job. We basically moved down to Essex, where I'm from, once I had been there a couple of years because we wanted to save money and have a kid and whatever, and I took a job at a place that it was an agency thing. They just chucked me in there because they needed to fill a slot, and it was horrible. I had a really sexist manager who hated men, kept hitting me, all like punching me on the arm. She was a monster. It wasn't long before I spent most of my days just hiding in we had like this area where all of the documents were kept. I can't think of the archives, I guess, and I'd just sit in there all day, go to the toilet for 2-3 hours at a time or whatever. So it was no surprise that I wasn't going to stick around there. But because I just had a kid and I was getting married and everything, I'd used up all my holiday, and I'd realised, weirdly, I just learned somewhere along the way that obviously if you leave a job midway through the year, you owe them the holiday back that you take. That's like a given. They pro-rata it. So I thought, I can't just quit because I'm going to go to uni. I need to basically get the sack. And that was just horrific. I was just answering the phone like, "What?" And my boss would be like, "Oh, hello, I wanted to sort this out." And I'd be like, Okay, whatever. And it went on like that for maybe a couple of weeks before they called me in and they were like, look, we've decided we're going to have to let you go. I did feel really guilty because they were very apologetic and said they'd pay me another month and whatever. But because I think I didn't feel too bad because the boss was horrible. If she'd have been nice, if she hadn't been hitting me on the arm and all this stuff, it would have been fine. I rubbed salt in the wound a little bit because they had to put me through this exam. They said everybody failed it. There was a guy in my team who'd failed it 8 times. I didn't even revise for it and got 99% in my first attempt. They gave me a little note going, well done, but secretly behind everyone because I didn't want anyone to feel bad that I'd done it without trying. When I basically got like let go, I said to them that, you know, like, oh, sorry, have you got anything to say? And I was like, well, not really. You know, thanks, because I'm going to uni in 2 months. I'd have quit anyway. See you later. I loved seeing the look on their faces because they genuinely didn't know that I had a plan already in place. That's when I started to do IT, trained to be a teacher, met Kev Lalujo from the other YouTube channel that most of you are already aware of. All the harebrained schemes of him, obviously, over the years, but you know, teaching was just horrific and stressful and a lot of nonsense. And I won't really go into that because it made me ill for like 3 years. But I'm in a really, really good job now, you know, doing well, great company. I'm not going to name them because I don't know if I'm allowed to and that sort of thing. But yeah, excellent stuff. You know, well worth working for. You know, it's good to be there. I've learned a lot of lessons though. If anyone ever has any kind of questions and bits like that about sort of jobs and nonsense and just stupid things happening, then let me know. I will say the stupidest thing that's happened to me at this job so far is I went to the loo one day. You know, just you know, number one, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Flash the chain, it starts to bubble up. I'm like, oh God, what's going on here? And I'm just like, that's not looking like it's stopping. And all I remember is turning a bit like, I'm trying to think what film it is. Is it The Lion King? Yeah, it must be The Lion King when Simba sees the antelope running down the hill and it just zooms in on his face like, oh. And that was me, just like, that's the water just come up and up. So I'm running for the door. The water's coming up like the antelope. Someone comes through another door and like, what's going on? And I leapt out, and as I leapt out, like this puddle of water and tissue and everything just comes floating out behind me. And I was just like, no, because everyone's going to think it's me. So I got like mops and everything, and I bleached the place to hell. Because we, you know, again, it was at the time a very new company, so it wasn't like we had loads of staff on that could come and clean it. It was just us, all hands on deck. So I cleaned it all up. I got very, very ill and dizzy off the fumes from the bleach and all the other stuff that I used. And then they had the cheek to nickname me Bomber Bass because they said I'd bombed the toilet with my ginormous toilet droppings, and it was horrific. I'm lucky that now most of the people who did, you know, witnessed the aftermath aren't there or have forgotten. Or I've probably reminded them now because they'll seek it out. But yeah, that's pretty much the stupidest thing that's happened to me in this job. Well, there's probably millions of other things. I did actually get to go on a night out once, and on the way back, this woman was asleep on the train, and I tapped her with my foot to say, is this your station? And she just punched me and said, what the hell are you kicking me for? And yeah, that was a bit mortifying. And my boss won't let me live that down because he says I basically kicked her. And I didn't. I like tapped her gently. But yeah, other than that, I don't think. I'll remember more stuff now, but I'm going to try and stop here because it's been going for about 15 minutes. But anyway, let me know in the comments if you've got any ridiculous stories from your jobs. Have any of you at my sort of age had more than 12 jobs? Because I think that's got to be some sort of extreme number. If you don't want to count the paper round, I'll accept 11. I feel like I need to stay in this, you know, this position. I'm in a good position. I need to just crack on. I need to work hard at it. And, you know, sales is my thing. I'm good at spinning a yarn and knowing my stuff and that kind of thing. So I know where I am and where I'm placed and that sort of thing. But anyway, I'm going to try and keep on the sort of wavelength of telling these stories, because I think, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what people want. It's all a bit new to me. I talk about things that interest me as well, obviously. I enjoy having just a chat about random silly things that have happened because it's fun to remember. And yeah, the feedback has been positive. Give me a like and a subscribe because as I told you time and time again, I want to get to 1,000 followers in 100 days. So far, so good. We hit 150 earlier, so I'm well chuffed with that. Thank you very much for everyone who's hit subscribe. Again, talk to me in the comments. I try and respond to everybody. And all I have to say from that is thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'm at Comic-Con tomorrow. I was going to do a pre-Comic-Con video, but Kevin's already covered that, so he can link in the comments if he wants to that how to prepare for Comic-Con. But I'll do a post-Comic-Con video when I get in and show you all the swag I got. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good evening.